Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC here in a moment. First, disclaimers and trigger warnings. And before I get to that, I'm going to gripe again because allergies. Living in Southwest Missouri can sometimes suck, folks, because light snow this morning, back up to 60 degrees. And then for the weekend, they can't figure out whether it's going to be snow, tornadoes, or both. Now, usually I don't complain. I don't care about the weather all that much, except when it's designated pool day during the summer. But when you got allergies, and you have weather that changes on a dime, let's see here, sinus headaches, congestion, stuffed nose, and as somebody with sensory issues, I can't sleep. When my nose is all goofed up, I get annoyed at air. It's the kind of uncomfortable that neurotypical people feel too, but the level of irritation is I want to pull my hair out by the roots, okay? Just to see if it might help. So, I apologize if you hear any throat clearing. My voice is going to be weird. Yes, I do have one of my Vapocool Vicks cough drops specifically for that reason. Thank you, Missouri. I'm not shilling for them, unfortunately. But Vicks, in case you're listening. Alright, folks, now to the disclaimers. That's enough of me complaining. So, folks, if you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links will be in the description box. Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Neuroclastic's article, the one that the JRC threatened a defamation lawsuit over, where they surveyed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to their so-called behavior modification program. Very obviously, Neuroclastic, by layman's headcanon terms, told them to get lost. And they still have that article up on their website, so please read it and share it on all your social media. Also, speaking of that defamation lawsuit threat of the JRCs, we also have Neuroclastic's GoFundMe linked in there, because unlike the JRC, we don't have weird, shady access to unlimited sums of money. Alright? To the trigger warnings. When we talk about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you do got young children present, please go ahead and utilize the headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity. I use profanity a lot. And at the age of 40, I don't see that as a particular personality trait of mine that's going to be changing any soon. As well as we do talk on some extremely dark subjects. So if your child's 16 and younger and watching this, please, folks, parental supervision is very much advised, alright? Okay, so we're moving on from where we were yesterday. But before we do, just to recap, once again, the JRC is literally trying to stand up their absolutely bizarre and sadistic so-called treatment program as something that is far better than what is current standard care. Here's the problem with that. if standard care is not what you're selling, and it is the rule of what everybody else uses, generally what that would tell me is that what you're pushing is unprovable pseudoscience bullshit. Okay? If status quo, current standard of care, are more along the lines of the programs that I've introduced all of you to as we've been going through the JRC's nonsense, and you only have one place that is doing this barbaric shit and calling it treatment, if literally everyone else in the medical model speaks against you, and you cannot pull up for me a single objective organization, university, nonprofit, clerical studies, if you can't bring a single entity that has even a shred of credibility to the table that tells me anything you have to say in regards to how so-called inadequate these other programs are, it's going to be absolute bullshit. But there's another thing that proves that as well, and that would be the math. The JRC pounds home every single time they're challenged a list of traits, a list of behaviors. I'm not going to tell you they're not scary. You think I wasn't scared when I was doing that shit to myself when I was a kid and I couldn't find a way to stop myself? You know how horrifying that is to come out of a meltdown, look down, and see the damage that you've done to your own body? You think we don't find that terrifying? Because we do. Okay? We do. So, what I am going to sit here and tell you, however, is that the individuals whose behaviors that they list as a means to tar and feather their own students and trying to tell us that they have the worst of the worst behavioral issues, that nobody in all of planet Earth and all the millions and millions of folks who are neurodivergent or otherwise that have behavioral issues are as bad as the kids that you have on the GED device at the JRC. I'm sorry, but that is a load of bullshit. Okay? That is complete, utter bullshit. That's just from the data standpoint. Now, let's go back to the fact that I have worked with the state. Okay? Some of my consumers, I had to go to their homes due to behavioral issues, with several safety protocols in place before entering into the residence in regards to helping those with some really bad behavioral issues. Okay? And yes, I've seen it in person. The hitting of other people, the messing with really dangerous objects such as knives. I lived it professionally and lived it in my childhood. So JRC's way of trying to bluff us into believing that somehow these kids are so rare and behavior so out of control that the only thing that works is torture doesn't work. It doesn't work. The other fact of the matter is, other people who work in current standards of care throughout the many different programs that are offered, depending on where the issues are at, they are going to have the kids that have the exact same type of scary behavioral issues as the ones you use to lambast your own students with, JRC. That's just basic math. Basic math. I have dealt with parents one-on-one, especially those who are new to this. They are stressed beyond their limit. They have reached a point that is so far beyond exhaustion that I don't think I even have the words to accurately explain it. And they are extremely desperate. Okay? What do parents do when they're extremely desperate, when their kids are very obviously in pain and confused and could be a detriment to themselves and others? They go into research mode. And that is the same in the US as it is all over the world. I would know. I've had those international conversations with parents, with international teachers, and case managers, and social workers. Okay? So if that is the case, and you know they'll pull up the JRC eventually. One usually does, in particular if the first thing you type in there is autism speaks, because pretty much universally, everybody after diagnosis automatically gets that autism speaks pamphlet where it starts talking about a few of the providers. I know, I've seen it. I had to be at one of the Walk Now for Autism benefit fundraisers when I worked for the state manning the booth for our DMH regional office. I did not enjoy it. Remember about that time where you hate and viscerally despise someone, but you fake like you're excited to be there? If ever I had a test in regards to acting skills, it would have been manning that booth for the office at the Autism Speaks event. I did pretty good. But dear God, when I got home and got a hold of my punching bag, did I go to work? Anyways, not the point. All these desperate parents, they find things like the JRC. If we were to go on what JRC is saying, those very desperate parents should jump at the opportunity, move over to the United States, and beg Dr. Israel for placement inside the school. This has never, to my knowledge, fucking happened. And the JRC has made international news repeatedly. Okay? So, watching those news clips, watching those interviews, some of the worst softball interviews I have ever seen in my existence. And they still went with standard of care. Should tell you something in regards to what the JRC actually really knows in regards to the alternatives that are out there in regards to how they measure up against their psycho, doesn't it? Alright, we're gonna move on here to comment 3. We're probably gonna bust it up because, let's face it, there's only so much stupidity that I can take in a singular day, only so much gaslighting, bullshit, and victim blaming nonsense. So, here we go. This patient population is refractory to other treatments. Dear God, you've already repeated the same point 5 times within the same document. Allow me to say it again. I hope to God, since the FDA, the poor folks, are going to have to review all of this crap again, that they've got some strong bourbon. I'm not a drinking lady anymore. I have the HH mutation and it's bad. But for their sake, cup of tea, maybe an extra bag of chips, they deserve their chosen poison that helped them deal with this repetitive insanity. But let's read through it again. Jesus Christ. FDA explicitly admitted in its previous proposed ban that there is a small subpopulation of patients who may simply have no adequate treatment option if ESD for their SIB is banned. Jesus fucking Christ. Am I gonna have to say it again? JRC, why do you insist on making me constantly tap on the sign? It's old. But apparently, let's do it again. JRC, the math doesn't math. You are never going to get me to believe that the kids you forced on that damn device are more extreme than every single other neurodivergent on planet Earth. And the only thing that's going to work is violence. The math doesn't math. But it's just a small refractory population, Tiffany. Yes! I'm very well aware of this, Karen. I keep up on data and statistics. I'm autistic. It's one of my hyper-focuses. Here's the truth of it. Even if we are talking about refractory folks, which I will give you is an extremely small percentage of kids, that small percentage still exists everywhere, all over the globe. Okay? It's not the JRC somehow managing to magically somehow have like this subgroup magically sent to them. Okay? No. The math is not mapping. Trying to get me to believe that the students forced on that device at the JRC are so refractory that we will never be able to find any singular other neurodivergent on the rest of planet Earth as refractory as they are and resistant to treatment is absolute nonsense. It's nonsense. This is the abusive parents argument. Okay? The abusive parents argument that pretty much goes along the lines of violence is the only thing they understand. That has been an excuse for horrific experiments on people like me. Not just during the Holocaust, but kind of throughout history. Okay? That has been the justification to get away with dehumanizing a segment of people who scare you. It's been a way to strip us away from every single one of our civil rights and human rights, so that we become absolutely powerless and people can do to us whatever the hell they want to and continue to get away with it. Our past is dark, folks, when it comes to dealing with any disabled people, but especially those folks who are developmentally disabled. And I don't even want to get into the barbarity that has faced folks with mental health issues through down the ages. Okay? But that's why they do it, though. That's why the JRC hammers that all the time. It's a way to dehumanize that most people wouldn't realize that is what it's doing. It's a way to almost create permission for themselves to continue with this horrendous, dark experiment under the guise of medical treatment. But it's such a small segment, and they're so extreme, and obviously nothing else works. And you have people who are out in the federal government and state government where they have to go, well, it's possible because nobody has a goddamn spine. Or let me put it this way. The only people who do have spines these days are those of us who have nothing left to fucking lose. Okay? Others are going to try to cover their ass with vague statements of, well, there might be a small subpopulation. Problem with that argument is, again, the math isn't mathing. Even with such a small percentage of individuals who could be devil's advocate, be refractory to any and all other forms of treatment, there would still be a larger number than the small subpopulation found in the United States. We would be also hearing about these types of folks out in the UK, out in the Republic of Ireland, in Japan, China, Australia, Canada. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Problem is, they don't really. Most of them do eventually find a program by means of using the full functional behavioral assessment to get to the triggers that will find a program to work for those who are a little bit more difficult to find treatment programs for. Again, that's why the full functional behavioral assessment is an absolutely indispensable tool. You can't just throw it away, throw your kid into an intervention program and hope for the best. It's essential. Essential. For this exact reason. So once again, JRC, your math is not mathing, okay? Good God. Now, we're going to address the next sentence, and apparently I'm going to make this more piecemeal than I thought, because, oh my god, I hate these people. I try not to hate. I really do. But apparently recognizing the conundrum it would face in justifying its latest proposed ban if it were to again make that outright concession, the FDA now frames the issue somewhat differently. State-of-the-art treatment for SIB and AB, such as positive behavioral techniques. Here we go with the vague umbrella terms, because the JRC actually knows absolutely fucking nothing about positive behavioral reinforcement, negative reinforcement. For the school that they claim to be, their lack of knowledge has never ceased to be absolutely, utterly mind-blowing. It really is. And their descriptions of what they think it is just, good God. Like, could you at least go to a public library and pick up a book on it first before you spew your stupid? With or without pharmacology are generally successful. Are we really going to be playing with words again, JRC? Really? Because this has been explained to you in detail. And once again, we are copy and pasting and just being obnoxious, condescending, evil, barbaric pissants. Okay? Now let me tell you how I really feel. Alright? It's because, sweethearts, as you yourself has admitted, although, as usual, you don't know what you talk about when you try to use it, there is no one-size-fits-all in regards to neurodivergence, those with mental health issues. There's a long fucking list. Okay? Even your program, you have admitted, is not 100% successful. If you'd like to challenge me on that, I would love to go into my cloud where I've been saving your beyond stupid comments and legal papers for over the last 30 years and put it in front of you on a Zoom call. If you want to make that argument with me, okay? No program is going to be 100% successful. Okay? Stop living in the fantasy, people. The truth of the matter is we're going to have behaviors. They're never going to go all the way completely forever. And the reason why there are so many different types of treatment programs and education programs is because those of us who share this diagnosis are so goddamn different. Now, JRC does treat a few others with mental health issues with that device. But the truth of the matter is the bulk, the majority of the individuals that get that thing shoved on them are autistic or have ADHD. Usually they have some comorbid conditions as well. But by and large, when it comes to that horrific device, us and my ADHDers are the ones that are targeted the most for that device. And again, JRC, if you want me to, I will go through the lists with you. I'm not afraid. You want to take me up on that challenge? Ready to go when you are. like positive behavioral reinforcement. At one point in time, about around 2010s, I'll give this to them, it was sitting at 60%. You want to know why it was sitting at 60%? It's because while that was a part of standard care, we were first introducing person-centered learning, also within the standard of care during the time period, as well as a combination of the two, as well as looking at pharmacology and pharmacotherapy. Because contrary to popular belief, the reason why Big Pharma is not the boogeyman is Big Pharma is too greedy to be the big boogeyman. They're going to do every single thing that they can to minimize lawsuits, not have to pay settlements. And so, everything has to be done meticulously. That's why they put so much pressure on clinical studies anytime they're getting ready to introduce a new medication out onto the market. They're covering their ass, spending the money now so they're not spending billions later. So whenever we have somebody like the JRC automatically get to the point where they are preaching medications and playing on the general population's mistrust of Big Pharma and trying to turn it into something else, it's the don't look behind the curtain technique. Okay? Not to mention massive projection. Right? Most state-of-the-art is not going to tell you that Big Pharma is the devil. You need to get your kids off these medications. They're going to turn them into a catatonic stupor. No, it didn't. I've been on a few. There were a couple that made me only think, dream, or care about sleep, but I was still up enough to be able to somewhat function, engage with class, be able to get to and from school safely. I was just overexhausted all the time. You know, kind of like now, except I was a teenager and shouldn't be feeling that level of exhaustion during that time period. Alright? Anyone hammering that hard anti-pharmaceuticals and anti-medications gone as compared to what they're doing, it's a scaremonger tactic. Okay? Well, surely the side effects would be, my side effects is occasional constipation and heartburn. My pills do not make me catatonic. They don't make me drowsy or sleepy. They do not destroy my bowels any more than just a little yogurt with some chia seeds couldn't fix, because it does. I'm just saying. Anyone that hammers that hard against Big Pharma is usually a pseudoscience conspiracy theorist. Okay? And to be honest, having dealt with those types of people for more years than I care to remember at this point, you cannot really trust their objective opinion on anything, because the longer you talk to them, the more everything becomes a conspiracy. And places like the JRC become the brave shining light. I'm going into left field, sorry. What I'm trying to say here overall is their constant attack on pharma is what they're using to cover up how deep down the rabbit hole of pseudoscience the JRC actually is. Okay? Number 2, they try to hit on the success percentages in regards to people on other treatment programs without explaining to people the reason why those percentages are the way they are, such as 60% of those a regional office has as consumers, is because the other consumers are on other programs. It really is that simple. And the JRC trying to use that to confuse you and say, but we have 100% success rate is absolute nonsense. Folks, we're going to go ahead and close on that one. This has gone a little bit longer than need be. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea absolutely hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in a few minutes. I've got to get some clothes out of the dryer. Bye-bye, everyone.